Today on Ostentatious, we're installing some tweeters and we're going active on the Pioneer stereo. We are working on the 2021 Corolla today. Don't worry about this box that's behind me. You'll find out what that is later on in another video. But anyway, what we want to do is we want to discuss Pioneer's network mode, what it is, how it works, and we're going to switch over to it today and show it to you. And I'm also going to reinstall these Alpine Type R tweeters that I previously had installed in my last car, my Chevy Cruze. And there's a couple different speaker options available for these cars. Luckily, I didn't have the JBL system, so it's going to allow me to do exactly what I want. Although, don't get me wrong, I'd love to have the JBL A-pillars and have the tweeters there. But still, yeah, this works very, very well. Let's talk about the base system in this car now. This car is a Corolla XSE, so it's not exactly a base car, but it doesn't have JBL, like I said. So that's considered the base system. Now, if you have JBL, you have 6.5s in your doors. You have, I think it's 3.5 or 4-inch in the dash, and then you have tweeters on the A-pillars. As y'all can see, this car doesn't have the tweeters on the A-pillars, but that's going to make this install a little bit easier for me, although I would like the imaging of the tweeters being up there. I don't know how well y'all can see this, but you'll see it better in the car. I can actually look down and see that this just has a tweeter cutout in it. So this is definitely the speaker grill that you do want if you're putting your tweeters in the dash. Now let's talk about network mode versus regular mode. So regular or standard mode on a Pioneer stereo gives you 4 outputs either on speaker level or on RCA level that are full range, and it gives you a subwoofer output. Now, if you go to network mode, that makes all of your speakers either left or right, except for the subwoofer, of course. There is no front, there is no rear. What that allows you to do is have 4 output channels that are completely independent of each other, and you can give them extra power. You can set your crossover points without having to install an aftermarket crossover. And that's a good thing that you don't have to have that aftermarket crossover, because they're usually those big and bulky things like y'all have seen that I have for the Blazer. And they usually just have 1 input and 2 outputs. So that means you can't bring 4 channels in. So it's technically not truly active. We're going fully active. Now there's a problem with going fully active on this car. See, Toyota, for some reason, thought it was a good idea to put the door speakers and the tweeters on the same channels. And they're hooked up in line with each other, which means if you unhook the tweeter in the dash to try to go active with it, your door speaker stops working. But Toyota, I've got you. I've got a solution, which is where these come into play. These are the Red Wolf X0025 S4U43. Now, I'm sure Metra, maybe Scosche, other companies make this. But let me show you exactly what this is. All right, so if y'all see here, a normal speaker only has 1 positive and 1 negative. But as you can see, this harness has 2 positives and 2 negatives that branch out from 1 positive and 1 negative. What this is, you plug this end into your factory plug and this end into a new tweeter. Because if you unplug a factory tweeter and you turn the vehicle on, that door speaker is not going to play whatsoever. Now, that's a problem because I want to go active, which means each speaker in the front is a separate channel. And listen, y'all, back speakers, if they're by your shoulders or if they're in the floor, they're useless. The only back speakers that are of any use whatsoever are the ones that are in back deck, like 6x9s they used to rock out in older cars. But even then, for accurate sound, that's not the best. But that just gives you some extra sound. But I'm going all active. And in order to do that, what I want to do is I'm going to plug this into the factory side, cut this end off and just crimp it off or whatever. And then what will happen is the wires that go to the front will go through this and make the door speakers work. I'll make that the back channels, and then I'll run new wires to the tweeters, and those will become my new front channels. I've cut these down a little bit to save some room in the dash. Just put some butt connectors on the end, that way they can't short out on anything. Probably could have cut it all the way down to here, but you know, I wanted to save a little bit of room just in case I change my mind on anything later down the road. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here with this pry tool. May have to go the opposite way of what it's made for, but let's go ahead and try to pry this out. Well, that was pretty simple. All right, so here is the tweeter, and here's the plug on it on this side. So I'm gonna go ahead and get in here and figure out how to get this plug off, and we'll go from there. Okay, so to get the tweeter out, there's a little tab here on the side of this harness. And even if you push it all the way in, it's a little bit difficult. So you're gonna have to work with it to get it out there. But now I do have the factory tweeter out of it. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this adapter, we're gonna plug it in here. Let's figure out which way it goes, line it up with these little pins in the side. And then what we're going to do is we're actually going to test this before we go any further to make sure the door speaker is working. So I was able to test, y'all may have heard a little bit of static, but I changed the channel. I don't have anything hooked up to it. So I changed the channel, and now the door speaker is successfully still playing. So that means since it is hooked up to the back outputs of the radio, I can hook the tweeters up to the front outputs and then go to network mode. So the new tweeters, they should just snap right in here for the size they are. And then I'm going to fish the line across the dash and we'll go from there. These are like a standard, think like 1-inch tweeter, same as factory. And I'm just going to fool around with this to see how I can get it to fit in here. Once it fits, it should snap in pretty good. It's already starting to snap. Let me get this in here real good and we'll take it to the car and install it. One of the things you definitely want to do in a car, the airbag, is if you're fooling with anything electronic, you want to disconnect the negative battery cable before you start. That way you don't blow an airbag out. You know, that's going to cost you at least $1,000 to get that fixed the right way. And also, not only that, but in these cars, if you unplug the hazards, if the battery's hooked up, you may have to take it back to the dealership. That's just the way all new cars are. They're weird, and they do everything they can to get their money out of you. You know how it is. So let's just go ahead and get this disconnected, then we'll jump in the car and pull the radio out of the dash. All right, so life is life. We're getting the grass cut right now. We're just going to have to talk a little bit louder. That's fine. So now let's go ahead and start on opening up the dash. There's really just two major things you have to do here. All right, the first thing is you're going to come around the side of this, pop it out. It may be a little tight the first couple times you do it. There's 4 tabs at 4 different corners of this. Set that somewhere out of the way where it doesn't get damaged. Then you're going to set your vents straight. You're going to stick your fingers back in them, and you're just going to start slowly pulling out. This panel will pop out, drop down in a lower gear, or higher gear in my case, since it's a standard. And then you're going to pull this clip right here. You're going to push your finger against it and pull it straight out. And then you're going to come on the bottom, push your finger right here, and pull this one straight out. Now this is able to be set aside. Now you don't have to worry about damaging either of those panels. Now there's 4 different screws in here holding the radio in. So what I'm gonna have to do, there's 2 up here, and there's 2 down here, somewhere through here. If you keep going, you'll find them. I'm actually missing some, and in this process, I have some stock ones to replace them. So let's go in here and get these screws out, and then we'll move from there. All right, I've done something here that you should never do. Don't ever hang your stereo like this. Now mine, for some reason, it's got a little radio support, and I don't know what's holding it so good there, and I'm not gonna complain about it, but most of the time this puts tension on your wires. Don't ever do it. But what you do want to do is when you are fishing wires across the dash, don't use a line fish. Go get some of these air conditioner zip ties. Maybe you have to put 2 of them together, but they're flexible, they'll move through your dash, and that way if you need to pull your wires through, you can just tape your wire to the end and pull it right through and you're good to go. Every single time you use a zip tie and you have one of these ends, use these. Don't just snip it wherever. Go flush across it like this and cut it straight across. Make sure you got it real good. There's a high place there, so I'll snip that real quick. I'll get on it. There we go. That way, next person comes through here, hey look, I'm not bleeding. I don't know how, but as far as I had to go, this just went straight through using 2 zip ties. Didn't get caught on anything. I was shocked. But this is what I'm talking about. You want to take the end of your zip tie. Of course, you may want to get a little bit more room because I got plenty of slack on mine. Bring it to where you can work with it comfortably. Get some tape and tape your wire to the end of the zip tie just like this, and then pull it across the dash. We're going to go ahead and work on getting this into network mode now that we got everything buttoned back up. But before we do that, whenever you have some custom settings, you want to try to take pictures or whatever those settings so you have kind of a jump off point. Now everything's going to be a little bit different where we're going into network mode, but we're going to take those pictures before we go any further. In order to get into network mode, we're going to have to reset the stereo. That's the only way to do it. We're going to go to the gear, we're going to go to the settings, and we are going to go to restore settings, all settings. System will automatically restore all settings to default values. Press restore. The radio will shut off. And we'll give it a while to come back on. All right, so now it's loading up. We'll just give it a few moments to go through its initiation here. All right, we're gonna go to English, select, and this is where we choose network mode. We're gonna hit OK, hit this OK button, and now we are in network mode, and things look a lot different, so I'll have to figure this out, and that's okay. So we'll go over here to the settings. We're gonna come down here to crossover. Now, if you'll notice, now it has high, mid, high pass, and then high pass off over here, okay? So basically what this is this is a crossover between the mid bass and the highs. What you're looking at here is this shows the relationship between the high pass and the low pass. So the low pass for the mids is going to be this gray line here, which I have it on high right now. So I brought my tweeters down to where they cut off at 2.5 kilohertz, which is about where we want to be with an Alpine. And this slope, basically the slope tells you the volume. These were at the drop-off point. That tells you the volume, like minus decibels on each one of these frequencies here. And as you go down with it, which, let me go back to it, there we go. If I drag that down, that means my tweeters are going to drop off quicker and it's not going to be playing as low. Come over here to mid to low pass filter. Basically what this means is, hey, where do you want your mid bass to kick off at? And we're going to start with it right there and see how it sounds and work from there. Now, I'm not going to actually do anything with music for you guys. And the main reason for that is, even if I play something like NFFX or something like that from the YouTube audio library, it's still not going to come across for you guys on the phone. So it's completely pointless playing it. But just know this is how you go in and set your crossovers when you're in network mode. And again, this is so that both your left speakers are on the front, both your rights are on the right, but they're all 4 independent channels, so you can adjust the levels independently, change your crossovers independently, and you can set the gains on your amplifier independently for all 4. And that allows you to have a full front stage, time alignment, everything, so you can make it sound like your favorite singer sitting either up on the dash or out on the hood. That's this episode of Ostentatious. Hopefully y'all learned something from this. Guys, please like, comment, subscribe. I got a lot more Blazer and mini truck content coming as well. Y'all know that's the primary reason for this channel, but I'm a stereo guy. I'm in here in the Corolla. May as well show you what I'm doing on my stereo. So thank you guys for watching and have a great week.